Welcome to Avoidant Decoded, where we uncover the hidden emotions, patterns, and psychology behind avoidant behavior. If you want deeper insights and exclusive content that helps you understand these complicated connections, consider becoming a member of Avoidant Decoded and join us on this journey of emotional clarity and self-growth. What if the moment you stop chasing an avoidant is the exact moment they finally begin to feel your absence? Sometimes your silence speaks louder than every message you ever sent, because when you stop fighting for their attention, they are finally left alone with their own feelings. You may think that if you keep pursuing someone, explaining yourself, sending another message, or showing them just how much you care, eventually they will understand what they are losing. But with someone who has strong avoidant tendencies, more pursuit can sometimes create more distance. Sometimes the response that leaves the strongest impression is much quieter. It may be a few honest words, followed by the courage to step back. When you say, "I understand, and I'm not going to chase you," you are not trying to manipulate them into coming back. You are changing your position in the relationship. Instead of reacting to every withdrawal with more effort, you remain calm, respect their space, and protect your own emotional stability. This matters because avoidant patterns can create a predictable cycle. They pull away, you move closer. They become quiet, you send more messages. They create distance, and you begin explaining, questioning, convincing, or pleading. Eventually, both people know what comes next. But when you stop reacting from fear, the pattern changes. You are no longer communicating, "I need you to come closer so I can feel okay." You are communicating, "I care about you, but I will not lose myself trying to make you comfortable." That difference can be powerful. An avoidant person may be accustomed to controlling the amount of closeness in a relationship. They decide when to approach and when to retreat. But when you stop chasing every movement, you remove the emotional pressure from the interaction. You allow them to have their space without making their distance the center of your life. This can create curiosity. Instead of experiencing you as someone demanding access to them, they may begin seeing you as emotionally steady. You are not trying to break through their defenses. You are simply showing that their defenses do not control your entire emotional world. There is a huge difference between being detached and being emotionally mature. Detachment says, "I don't care." Maturity says, "I care deeply, but I will not abandon myself to prove it." That is the energy that changes everything. When your words and actions match, your message becomes stronger. If you say you will not chase and then actually give them space, they may notice the consistency. Your absence can become more noticeable because it is no longer filled with pressure, explanations, or repeated attempts to reconnect. Once the pressure disappears, they have more room to process their own feelings. They may wonder why you did not argue. Why did you not try harder? Why did you not demand another explanation? Why were you able to step back without turning the situation into a battle? Your absence creates mental space where your constant pursuit once created emotional pressure. That does not mean every avoidant person will suddenly return. It does not guarantee that they will become emotionally available. People are different, and no sentence can control another person's readiness for intimacy. The real change is in the dynamic. You stop participating in the endless cycle of pursuing and withdrawing. Your distance is not punishment. Your silence is not a trick. Your boundary simply says, "I care about what we have, but I will not force something that requires two willing people." Then there is another powerful truth. I deserve emotional availability, even if you are not able to give it to me. Those words are not an accusation. They are a statement about your own standards. You are not saying, "Change so that I can finally feel worthy." You are saying, "I know what kind of connection allows me to feel secure, respected, and fulfilled, and I will not pretend that something unhealthy is enough." That distinction is important. You do not have to prove that you are patient enough, loving enough, understanding enough, or loyal enough to make someone's emotional defenses disappear. Their behavior belongs to them. Your choices belong to you. Love and boundaries can exist together. You can care about someone and still refuse to accept inconsistency forever. You can understand why someone struggles with intimacy without allowing their struggles to become an excuse for your emotional neglect. This can also create reflection because you are no longer managing their discomfort for them. They have to sit with their own feelings instead of relying on you to constantly close the emotional distance. Avoidant tendencies often involve a complicated contradiction. Someone may want connection while becoming uncomfortable when connection feels too real. They may appreciate affection but fear vulnerability. They may miss someone and still create distance from them. When you stop chasing, you give them an opportunity to recognize that contradiction themselves. You show them another model of connection. Two people can care about each other without one person losing themselves. There can be affection without control. boundaries without punishment, independence without abandonment, and closeness without suffocation. That is very different from manipulation. Manipulation asks, what can I do to make them react? Self-respect asks, what do I need to do to remain healthy and whole? When your actions come from self-respect, you stop monitoring whether they noticed your absence, whether they miss you, or whether they will come back. Your attention returns to your own life, and sometimes that is precisely when your presence becomes more noticeable. They may eventually recognize that you were never trying to control them. You were trying to connect while still maintaining your identity. You can tell them, I respect myself enough to wait for a relationship that is emotionally available, but I will not sacrifice my value just to keep someone close. That is not a threat. It is not an ultimatum. It is clarity. You are making it clear that genuine connection has requirements, and emotional availability is one of them. This can challenge the beliefs an avoidant person may carry about relationships. They may expect closeness to become demanding, controlling, or overwhelming, but your behavior can demonstrate something different. You can care deeply and still have limits. You can give someone space without disappearing into their needs. You can remain compassionate without tolerating endless inconsistency. You can be emotionally open without becoming emotionally dependent. That combination can be difficult to dismiss because it creates emotional safety without asking you to surrender your standards. Over time, your influence becomes less about what you say and more about what you embody. You become someone who can be loving without being desperate, patient without becoming passive, and strong without becoming cold. Then there is another statement that can completely change the emotional atmosphere. I'm not angry, I just understand things differently now. Those words do not invite an argument. Someone who expects accusations, emotional reactions, repeated questions, or attempts to force an explanation may not know how to respond to calm clarity. Anger gives someone something to defend against. Clarity does not. When you say you understand, you are not claiming to know everything inside their mind. You are acknowledging what their behavior has shown you and deciding what that means for your own life. You are no longer reacting only to the latest moment of distance. You are recognizing the larger pattern. That is growth. Growth is often quiet. It does not always look like a dramatic goodbye or a powerful speech. Sometimes it looks like someone who has simply stopped fighting reality. You no longer need to convince them that they hurt you. You no longer need them to admit that your feelings were valid. You no longer need another conversation just to feel certain about what you already know. You have learned to respond from awareness instead of emotional panic. That is why silence can become meaningful after clarity. You have already communicated what matters, so you do not need to keep repeating yourself. Then there is the simple statement, I genuinely wish you the best. When those words are sincere, they communicate tremendous emotional maturity. You are not saying them to make the other person jealous. You are not secretly hoping they will panic and return. You are acknowledging that they have the right to choose their path, even if their choice hurts you. You can care about someone and still release them. You can feel disappointed without becoming bitter. You can accept distance without turning it into revenge. You can love someone without believing you have to possess them. And there is a powerful paradox here. When you stop trying to hold someone in place, you remove some of the pressure that may have made closeness uncomfortable. But never let go as a strategy to make someone come back. If your distance is secretly another attempt to control their reaction, you are still chasing. The real freedom comes when you choose peace whether they return or not. You are saying, I cared about you, I still want good things for you, but I also want good things for myself. That kind of acceptance can stay in someone's memory because it feels very different from emotional pleading. Sometimes the person who leaves the deepest impression is not the one who fought desperately to stay. It is the person who cared enough to let go without becoming cruel. You also stop asking, what can I do to make them recognize my value? Instead, you begin asking, does this relationship recognize what I need? That is a much healthier question. Another statement captures this balance perfectly. I respect your space, but I also respect my needs. You are acknowledging their boundaries without erasing your own. You are not demanding constant closeness, but you are also not agreeing to remain indefinitely in a relationship that leaves you emotionally empty. There are often two extremes in these dynamics. One person becomes increasingly demanding when the other pulls away, or the person who feels rejected disappears completely. But there is another option. You can understand their need for space while remaining honest about your own needs. You can give them breathing room without making yourself invisible. You can care about them without becoming responsible for their emotional life. You can ask for consistency without demanding constant access. That is emotional self-sufficiency. It does not mean needing nothing from anyone. It means knowing what you need without making another person responsible for your entire happiness. This can challenge the belief that another person's needs automatically equal pressure. Your behavior can show that two people can maintain individuality while still sharing genuine connection. Healthy intimacy does not require one person to become smaller so the other can feel safe, and your presence becomes a choice rather than a burden. You are not waiting for someone else to validate your worth. You already know it. You are simply deciding whether the relationship is capable of meeting you where you are. That is where emotional maturity becomes visible. You understand their space without accepting neglect. You honor your needs without controlling their choices. You remain compassionate without abandoning your standards. You allow freedom without creating emotional abandonment. And whether that person eventually comes closer or continues walking away, you remain grounded. That is the real point. There is no perfect sentence that can make an avoidant person chase you. There is no psychological trick that guarantees someone will return, change, or suddenly become ready for intimacy. The most powerful change happens inside you. When you stop pursuing someone because you are afraid of losing them and start living from self-respect, your entire relationship with yourself changes. You become less concerned with getting a reaction and more concerned with creating a life that does not collapse whenever someone becomes distant. Your victory is not making them stay. Your victory is refusing to abandon yourself just to make them stay. You can understand them without excusing everything. You can love them without losing your identity. You can give them space without disappearing from your own life. And if they eventually move toward you with greater openness, you can meet them there from a healthier place. If they do not, your worth remains exactly where it was. That is the transformation. You stop trying to convince someone that you are valuable and start living as though your value was never something they had the power to negotiate. Your calmness may stay in their memory. They may remember your tone, your patience, the way you handled distance, and the fact that you did not fall apart when they stepped away. They may wonder why you did not chase harder. But the goal was never to make them wonder. The goal was to become someone who no longer needs another person's approval to feel whole. That is what makes your presence powerful, not because you learned how to make someone chase you, but because you finally learned how to stop chasing yourself for someone else's validation. And when you reach that point, love becomes different. You can care without clinging. You can understand without excusing. You can wait without putting your life on hold. You can walk away without hatred. You can remain open-hearted without allowing another person's distance to control your emotional state. That kind of peace cannot be manufactured as a strategy. It has to become real. So if you ever find yourself facing someone who repeatedly moves away, remember this: you do not have to prove your love by pursuing harder. You do not have to earn someone's availability through endless patience. And you do not have to become less of yourself just to make another person comfortable. Sometimes the strongest message is simply, I understand. I respect your space. I also respect myself. Then let your actions speak. No chasing, no manipulation, no punishment, just clarity, boundaries, and the quiet confidence of someone who knows that being loved should never require abandoning yourself. The strongest thing you can do is not make an avoidant chase you. It is to stop abandoning yourself just to be chosen. When you choose self-respect over pursuit, your peace becomes your power, and your worth no longer depends on whether someone stays or walks away.